one way to read the first chapters of Genesis is that God is actually creating the Sabbath.
Right.
That what happens in days 1 through 6 is mere prelude to what's really important, which is the Sabbath.
Which is really weird.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Which prompts my question. We're 35 minutes into our discussion, and I just mentioned God for the first time.
Right.
What does any of this have to do with God?
I mean, I think, I don't know. That's the big question. I mean, we talked about the Sabbath as a vehicle for connection with God, or at least with holiness. And whether you replace the Sabbath with Jesus. I mean, certainly, I expound my own particular theology at the end of the book, in which I say sometimes I think God is ritual. God is this thing that gets passed along through history and comes down to me, and I get to shape my life around it and learn from it. And if you want my personal theology, that would be it. The Sabbath to me is God, in the sense that it is this thing that exists in the world. I can bring it into my life. It opens up these transformations and changes me. But the classical understanding of the Sabbath would be it is His day. It is His, one way of understanding it is His tithe. Mm-hmm. It's His tithe in time. That's a classic Jewish understanding. Mm-hmm. Because it's a big sacrifice, right? It's a sacrifice.
Right.
A sacrifice of 1/7 of your time. Right. So that's a classical way of understanding it's a tithe to God.
A Catholic association with what you're saying is to a sacrament. We don't presume to see God anywhere, but we worship God through signs and symbols in which we believe God is present. But you're your unease with language about God, the squirm I felt in you as soon as I used the word, is, I would say, the authentic signal of holiness, because the only thing we know about God, for sure, is that we know nothing about God. And that not knowing, as I take it, is something to which we pay attention. I learned from you to pay attention. That's, for me, a way of understanding what the Sabbath is for. It's when I pay attention to not knowing about God. And faith, I would say, is precisely that to say that God is unknowable is to know the most important thing about God.
But I love this idea of transubstantiation as somehow like the presence of God in the Sabbath. And I talk about this as wine is the Sabbath in a bottle.
You do indeed.
Wine is very holy to me on the Sabbath, and I drink a lot of it on the Sabbath. And I don't think, I mean, it's funny, but I think it's serious at the same time. Wine has, enormous importance in the history of religion. But it is, rituals are these things we take into our bodies that are filled with whatever our understanding of God is.
Yes.
And I never thought of it that way.